This is Deborah Pardes on the Spotlight channel of Swell. It's April 1st. I'm in Los Angeles. Minakshi Achan will be hearing this when she wakes up in Mumbai, India. Good morning, Minakshi. So happy to have you here. By way of introduction, for all of you who are about to listen to this and hopefully participate, Minakshi has a 30-year history in creating beautiful content for the world in the form of television and film. She's now currently the lead brand marketing and creative communications director for Disney Star. Now, what is Disney Star? So Disney Star reaches about 700 million people each week. People who are in 70, basically looking at the Disney Star network through 70 different channels, and it's in 8 languages. This scale is so vast that I'm not even sure how to understand how decisions are made based on the variety and the diversity of the audience. So that's going to definitely be part of this conversation. But when initially speaking to Minakshi, she really talks about the magic of the work she does and the opportunity to partner with great platforms like Nat Geo, like TED, people who are focused and niched in their world. She can take their content and spread it across multiple platforms so that people can see it from different angles, different perspectives, and create this sort of equity among all different kinds of people to access this important content. To be in this position is such a life journey, I believe, because times change, the politics of the world change, technologies change, and what doesn't change is the need for people to tell their stories. And that's the beauty of being in the creative space, is that you can always get down to the nugget of that human story and the core of what makes us feel connected, what brings us empathy, what brings us dignity, what brings us self-respect, what brings us to this place of humanity that we can share between each other. So I would love, Minakshi, to start in conversation with you about the pathos of the world that you traverse. When you feel into your position, does it feel like I think it feels, which is really, really good? Because in the end of the day, you are amplifying great storytellers and their work, and all the people that are attached to that. Every person, everyone part of the crew, everybody who's in front of the camera, behind the camera. It must feel really good. Does it feel good?
Hi, Deborah. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm really delighted to be here. It was years ago that I have given a radio interview, and I just realized that voice makes such a big difference. And, I remember reading many, many years ago about how it's such a theater for the mind, and that's exactly what it is, because I feel I've met you, and though I haven't physically met you, you have such a beautiful voice and a lovely personality. So, really happy to be here. Like you said, times change, politics of the world can change. The need for storytelling doesn't really change at all, does it? So, and truly, isn't that part of the grand human plan? That's what makes us all who we are, We're stories in ourselves and everything that has been built into us. What really feels good is knowing that a piece one has put out in the world has made a difference. Whether it is giving hope to someone, light, comfort, healing, or simply, woken up people from slumber, or enlightened them or inspired them. So yes, it does feel good when there is change. Even if it is a teeny weeny one, it does feel good. And stories have always raised my spirit, reading, listening, telling. So I've been really blessed. Over the years, I've had the privilege of meeting the most amazing storytellers, writers, artists, singers, movie directors, sculptors, comedians, and they're all trying to send a message out to the world. And once upon a time, maybe they didn't use the tech that they are doing or what we are doing right now, but the need for storytelling and the stories have just continued through time. And even I have evolved through time. Who would have thought that both of us who've never met each other are sitting on opposite ends of the world, and we're chatting the way we are. In fact, the other day I was watching an interview of two people who've never met again, but have appeared in the same place visually. So tech does marvelous things in the world, and I'm sure there will be more ways of connecting which will come up over time. And what I have understood and realized through time is that the only way to stay relevant and be alive to what is new in the world is what matters. And while we'll continue connecting through stories, and the media will change, and the suffering may too, for all you know, like the impact of COVID, which has totally halted the world. But I have found that creativity has really blossomed in this time. In India, there's a clutch of storytellers right now, and in the entertainment world, there's so many people knocking at our door. So it's amazing how grief and suffering actually has brought about the most beautiful artists of time.
Minakshi, thank you so much for, first of all, thank you about talking about my voice. I appreciate that. And also to the effect of our being together through this medium. And it's just so special. I'm always in awe when technology does really good stuff for us. And I think that the ability for us to talk right now with this intimacy is beautiful. And I never take it for granted. And thank you for taking time with me. You mentioned just now about this time period we're in, giving birth to a lot of great art and the emergence of new voices. And I know that in your position, you've watched people's careers. And I want to talk a little bit about the journey of artists. And I don't think there's any illusion that there's this idea of making it. We know too many people who've had times in the spotlight and then the light goes away. And there are people that I'm sure you've watched who have a sustained career. And I would love for you to speak about what you think makes for a stable, sustained career in this business, and the characteristics maybe that you've seen in the people who've continued to create and collaborate and succeed in this industry. Is there a set of traits that you've noticed that they have in common? Is there something along their journeys that there are similar milestones? Can you just speak a little bit about the people you've met and the magic that they bring to your life? But are there things in common that they all have that you might want to bring out that would be interesting and help also shed light on something that maybe someone who's listening could say, oh, I have that characteristic. Let me develop that more, because she's right. That's something I really want people to know about. And maybe that's going to help me do better at what I'm doing. So wondering if you've noticed that in your career so far.
One of the biggest lessons I have learned has been from one of my first bosses, and his name is Pandurang Rao, and we used to call him Pandy very, very fondly. The first thing he taught me was to keep my ego aside. He said, having artistic conceit only takes you so far. To remember that society writes your stories, and your experiences write your stories, as does your history and your surroundings. And I was barely in my 20s, and in a state of arrogance, I was showing off my idea. And he said, and I quote, "Life is happening, and you're just the camera placed there, Minakshi." So since then, I've been very careful about being proud sometimes, but not conceited. So through the years, I've actually seen my contemporaries who have fallen prey to this. And in a very short while, what happens is when the spotlight shifts, you're no longer the hero of that moment. You've broken down because the spotlight has shifted, and because this big monument you build to your own ego and your idea, and you have this infinite need for it to stay up forever, but it is shattered. So yeah, it's very important to keep your ego aside and be conscious of what tricks it can play on you, frankly. The second lesson actually has been to be a student of opportunity itself. because who knows who's going to come knocking at your door. So keep the door open so opportunity can walk in easy. I haven't really planned my career, but all the happy twists and turns have been thanks to those knocks, which were truly welcomed with open arms. So I'm very, very grateful for those opportunities. So the point is often not to get tied down to what you're doing. There may be a better road, a different road, and those roads can actually take you to some unimagined and very exciting places itself. Another lesson actually has been in something which a very good friend of mine told me this because she thought I was incredibly hard on myself. Celebrating yourself is more important than others celebrating you, because it's so important to feel joyous in your own performance sometimes. And in the creative profession, every day we have enough people telling you, this isn't a great idea, it isn't going to work. So conviction is so important. But getting your pulse racing to the drums of social commentary, so to say, can be devastating. And my friend, Anita, told me this. And I think I today understand its value a lot more. So I try and enjoy the little moments one gets and celebrate those little ideas. The other big learning has been actually to play the infinite game. And I was watching a Simon Sinek talk the other day, and a friend of mine, Gayatri, woke me up to this. And we were both discussing our individual careers. And she said, look back at your own career. And, have you noticed that we often fall prey to those immediate goals and, really forget the long game itself. So the finite is to win right now. You need to slice that data and people sometimes to show who is number one. So I was so inspired by Simon's metrics of heart count versus head count. So keeping an eye on the longer game plays out better in life. But frankly, this is easier said in hindsight. And I'm not so sure if somebody had told me that in my early 20s and 30s, whether I would have understood this. But somehow it seems to have worked out. That's what I would say. As a team lead, one of the important lessons I have learned is actually to hear their voices. It's so very important. And it's so appropriate that we're talking of this at Swell, a voice platform, where, it's important to listen, to hear, and of course, and therefore to come back to the context of our teams, to make them feel heard and respected, because it will truly help people reach their potential. So I hope everybody listening has great bosses or have great teams whom they can actually listen to and help them maximize their potential. It is a difficult life for young people out there. Today you can get so caught up in the vanity of instant gratification that social media offers. Fame, ratings, popularity, view counts. The social game is endless out there. So in the long run, frankly, loyalty, love, passion, all of these have greater impact than being what one can be termed sometimes as a social loser in this world of social media. And I feel, from my own perspective, I feel that my mind has been jogging for way too long, ticking all those multiple boxes of a to-do list. And, when I think back, I feel that I should have told my younger self, or believed that then, that the journey is long and beautiful, and to just stop and enjoy the view. So I see all those artists. Hi, I kind of cut myself off without realizing as I was talking. I was just saying that, when you look at the artists who've really had a long career, and there's one thing which really shines through, and which is that they've all chased their work, so to say, or their careers with absolute love and passion, and they've played it consistently. Because when you play with love, you never ever work a day in your life, but actually enjoy this long, beautiful journey. So eventually work never weighs heavily on you, and it is sheer magic. So
I feel so lucky that I decided to listen to your answer before I went to bed here in Los Angeles, because it's so beautifully ordered insofar as you're isolating the specific things that one can do to have a life that's balanced, touching upon humility and focusing on opportunity and celebrating oneself and paying attention to moments. I mean, these are all lessons that are transferable to whatever industry one is in, but specific to the people you've met who've brought magic to you so that you guys can propagate it out into the world, those people that have that balance are able to just keep on giving the gift of their work because they've kept in balance the things that you just mentioned. And I know it's not one size fits all, but the way I just listened was like, I have to listen a few more times to what you just said, because I need to write it on little Post-its and also just share this with people, because I do think it could come down to some very basic tenets that can really help sculpt a life. And, I love Simon Sinek for his ability also to make things so digestible for us. He's got such a great skill, and I just love that you admire him and follow him as well. It's amazing how we live on opposite sides of the world, and yet he's a man that we both listen to. I know you're on your way to a wonderful weekend, so I wanted to just leave you with a question to think about, and then we could pick this up on over the weekend or on Monday. And the question I want to leave you with is the myth of balance, because you mentioned, not losing yourself in your career and having and knowing that any adulation you get from people around the world, it has to stop at some point and it has to only be outside, because what comes from your inside is what carries you through life. And in terms of balance, do you feel like there is a balance that an industry can strike as well as the individual? Meaning that, do you feel like there's something going on with the entertainment industry where they have to become more aware of the human beings as opposed to the dollar signs? The movement for equity, the movement for diversity. Are we going in the right direction? Are we going to a more balanced world where it's not just about the dollar signs, where it's about the humanity behind the industry? Are you feeling hopeful that there is balance coming into the industrial complex of entertainment?
The myth of balance. Oh, Deborah, that concept of living in harmony, the reality of it is that we're all trying to get a kind of semblance of it, but not really succeeding all the time. But I think for this, we need to really grow the energy that will give us the battery power for everything we need to do. Because how do you perfectly harmonize, especially in the entertainment industry, which is also all-consuming, think that the only thing to do is to honor our biggest priorities of that moment, be it personal or professional, and it can keep swinging. But so I tend to typically examine the moment and see who needs me mostest at that moment, because often the lesser important can become priority as well. And both professional and personal life need attention and investment. I think many progressive companies understand this these days. There is a need to feed your mind with diverse interests, not to run out of steam and burn out, etc. So mental health, again, is a key discussion at offices these days. Especially with the pandemic, it has become even more relevant, On your question on equity and diversity, I think companies are increasingly becoming conscious of the inequity there is and the imbalances around. So there is huge effort in the right direction. I think we see and hear that all the time these days. And beyond just voicing support, the entertainment industry's most powerful tool is storytelling. So to give voices to underrepresented communities and give positive voice to storytelling so that it can make a difference on the ground, I see that quite a bit, and I'm quite hopeful because these conversations are becoming louder and louder. And there is change in the world, but there is also a huge need to accelerate that rate of change. So the gaps narrow faster, I would say.
There's so much hope in what you just said. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I wanted to ask you if you'd be willing to share with us a little bit about your journey. You're a woman in a business that demands so much, and you had a beautiful family, and you probably came across some low ceilings and some closed doors, and you went through them, and the journey must have been pretty colorful. And can you point to certain milestones in your life that represented opportunity and growth, and sort of before those milestones were met, can you share with us a little bit about the this maybe, I wouldn't use the word, the struggles for sure, but the mindset that you adopted to handle those struggles is very interesting for those of us who are always looking to learn from other people's journeys. So I would love to hear some of those moments, about some of those moments in your life and what they represented to you and how you handled them.
I often felt more than doors and ceilings outside of me. My own fears have held me back. So limitations are all in our minds, and they often play on loop as we keep hearing doubts and questions on our own ability and potential. So if we accept that those ceilings and doors are there and they exist, then they obviously become very, very visible. And my own view is that we should just look through them. Glass ceilings are just that, transparent. So look through them and walk and rise through them. And, if the shattering of glass and cracking of solid wood sounds too loud to other people, so be it. Not mine to worry about. And we should keep building our dreams, and there is no ceiling to that. What is important is that work is superlative, whether it's a man or woman. So to me, gender is not a discussion point personally. But having said that, discrimination exists and one can't shy away from that. So one needs to be conscious of it, but not a slave and have it occupy your mind and cloud your thinking. So along the way, there will be failure and success, and neither should unhinge you. I have been very fortunate to be in companies that believe in gender equality. But my observation is that we need more women to run the race at the same rate as men. And we cannot let a few hurdles limit ourselves, nor do we have to run at a faster rate to overcompensate. We just need to stay in the race. So belief is everything, and everything else is sheer noise. So ignore it, because all you have is yourself, and you have to get your own back. So we should just stop seeking it and just let our own light shine, I would say.
I want to say amen to that. It's so liberating to listen to the truth in so far as it's your truth. And when someone is imbued with the confidence based on life experience, there is a truth to that, and that is so infectious. And that's the power of story. When we don't get stuck inside our own narrative because someone around us shares the expansiveness of their narrative, and it becomes a really shared momentum. And I feel that that's why these conversations are so important, is because you cut to the quick, and where you live right now is the truth of your life, and it can so easily be the truth of someone else's if they get around the hurdles and the boundaries and the metaphors that are keeping them under rubble, and they rise up and they meet you where you are. And what a beautiful gift you're giving us. I have a real belief that mentorship is something that is could be a real guiding principle for more organizations. And I know that where you work, there's quite a bit of it. And because this is Swell and we have this open architecture of conversation, I'm wondering if you can take some time and think about a new voice we can bring in to speak with us about these conversations, or this conversation that doesn't really have edges and boundaries. It's more about what would we like to speak about with this person, and what ingredients will they bring to this conversation. So I think I mentioned this to you when we first spoke, the idea of expanding this conversation to include a new voice for whatever reason, to delight us, to challenge us, to provoke us, something. And no need to know about that person now, but let's think, and then let's invite him or her into this conversation and have a blast. So over to you. Let me know. And let's do this. It's been so wonderful so far.
Hi, Deborah. It's been really lovely chatting with you, actually. And I am going to invite a few other friends of mine who are also in leadership positions, because, like you said, it's great to hear from other people as well and expand the universe, so to say. Just in the spirit of conversation, I'd love to know what your life journey has been like. What are the big lessons that you've had through your wonderful career as a storyteller. And who are the people who've impacted you the most? And really would love to hear that.
It's so interesting, this dynamic of voice to voice. It really, it cuts to the quick so beautifully, and I can listen back to this and really feel a sense of you, and we're all sort of. I find it interesting when you think about careers, and I was, asking you about milestones and how they help light the way and also light behind us, so we can look back and see where we were, and does that necessarily define where we're going. And when I think about my life, I look at it sometimes as chapters, and I find that to be actually sort of a false narrative in a way, because to me things feel more cyclical and infinite than ever, because the old saying is, who you are is who you're becoming in a deeper way. Like, we walk into the room with all of ourselves, not just the moment that we're in. It's all the stuff we collect on the way. And, I really had a focus as a singer-songwriter for years. But something told me that as I was pursuing my music career, to, instead of being a bartender, to really focus in on other skills. And it really got me into this whole world of marketing and positioning and working with companies to understand messaging. But I took a really strange turn, because as I was in that world of performing as a songwriter, but also helping people find their own metaphorical song, I bumped into this world of advocacy for people who had low-level reading skills, because I had written a song about a book and it inspired others, and I thought, why not leverage songs about books to help people learn how to read? All this to say, I started working in the literacy space, and I started working with people who learned to read late in life. And my experience in those concentrated years really gave me a deep appreciation for what really is what was a turning point for me in terms of watching people have their turning points. When you watch an adult learn how to read, it's one of the most profound experiences, because it's like you gave them a passport and they weren't able to travel until that passport. And then they're able to see life through the lens of all these characters and all these narratives that they wouldn't have access to had they not had that secret, beautiful moment between their eyeballs and the words on the page. And that was a big milestone for me, I guess, that really inspired me, working with adults learning how to read. And then from there, I think what I really reflect on is that the singer-songwriter in me is always present. I'm always trying to find ways to create magic where there is none, and always trying to create the smartest and most succinct way to express myself. And in 3 minutes, songs do that, and I kind of carry that passion into my life, so I can do things pretty quickly. And that also goes to my personal life, where I really, if someone moves me and I'm attracted to them on any level, I want them to know, and I'm pretty clear about connecting to people who I resonate with. And it's helped me in my professional and my personal life, because if someone is vibrating at your level, you're like, I need to know you. Who are you? And that's sort of how I behaved as an artist, as a young person. And that's how I behave now as someone who's just infinitely curious and infinitely hungry to connect and to appreciate small achievements for what they are, which is they're not small, because achievements are really measured not by the largeness of them as having neon signs, but achievements are about moments where you have that sense of accomplishment at the micro level that you applied yourself. And I think that's sort of a mantra for me, is focus on the achievements as small as they are, and that will light your way. And that lights my way. The little things that I feel like I've done in a day, which is probably why I like gardening, And that was 5 minutes. I hope that was a good thing. And I appreciate you asking. Let's continue this. Tell me if there's other questions you have.
Hey, Deborah. How lovely to hear that you were a songwriter. I'm so excited by that because I've always wanted to be one, and I've tried my hand at lyrics and never ever succeeded. So I can never earn a living off writing a song for sure. So I would love to hear you sing a song actually, and I think it can really light up Swell that way. And also I'm very, very inspired by your adult education work that you've done. It is such a meaningful thing to do, and I'm sure it must have been incredibly rewarding. So please do sing a song. Looking forward to that. Bye. See you.
Oh, you are putting me on the spot, and I love that. That's really cool. I'm going to sing you a song I wrote for a storytelling series, and the theme of the storytelling night was After Hours. So I wrote this song. We are mountains in the distance, impossible at first. We're the fantasy of liquid to a body full of thirst. We are sick of being sick when our bodies want to run. So we're breaking into ballrooms and inviting everyone. We are waking after hours. We are rising from the dead. What's been keeping us from living is the danger in our head. We are dancing in the shadows. We're enveloped in the sky. In the hours after hours, we live till we die. We are coming to crescendo and dropping to our knees. We're the boiling point of truth when the world's about to freeze. We might get hit the hardest when the day comes crashing down. But we're the seeds left on the surface, moving deeper underground. We are waking after hours. We are rising from the dead. What's been keeping us from living is the danger in our head. We are dancing in our shadows. We're enveloped in the sky. In the hours after hours, we live until we die. Hours after hours. Hours after hours. We are waking after hours. We are rising from the dead. What's been keeping us from living is danger in our heads. We're dancing with our shadows enveloped in the sky. In the hours after hours, we live until we die.
What a divine voice. You're truly blessed, Deborah. The lyrics and the music are sheer art. I'm truly inspired and so very moved that you did this for me. Though I didn't really mean to put you in a spot, you've just made my day and my weekend so very special. I'm going to keep playing this on loop now. Have a wonderful weekend and do keep spreading the magic. I don't want to speak too much. I'm just going to hear you sing. And thank you for the music once again. Bye-bye. Hi, Deborah. I'm delighted to introduce you to Kankana Das. She's an ex-colleague of mine at Star and Disney and today a very, very dear friend. I can't even begin to describe her. She is many people in one. She slips from writer to editor to life coach to gardener to cook to biker, and all with equal ease and aplomb. Despite a highly successful career as an HR professional, Kankana actually gave it all up to shift cities to Goa, India's holiday state. She's bought a beautiful home with a garden and leads an idyllic life to the envy of many, many people, me to begin with. I would love for you to meet her and discover her amazing journey through many, many fields. What is inspirational is her ability to challenge herself at every turn and to create yet another Kankana. And Kankana would love for you to meet Deborah. She's VP at Swell and the chief storyteller here. Deborah is another person who seems to have had an exciting life. She's been a songwriter and a musician and a brand storyteller to now the leading voice of this lovely platform. She holds really authentic conversations here with so many inspiring and inspired people. In fact, I've had the privilege of a beautiful conversation with her and she actually sang a song for me. So over to you, Deborah, to take this forward.
Minakshi, thank you so much for bringing in a new voice for all of us to kind of braid into each other's ideas. I love the image of a braid, actually. When I was a kid, I used to try to braid my hair, and it always came out like a French braid, one big braid in the back of my head. And I kind of looked austere for a 16-year-old, and I didn't know it until years later when I saw pictures of myself with my braid, and I was like, that's why people were afraid of me. But we shall braid our thoughts together. I'm so happy to hear of you, Kankana. It's always great to be introduced because you kind of take a breath and go, whoa, they're talking about me. And in this conversation I've had with Minakshi, we've sort of been touching on this idea of isolating moments or thoughts or philosophies that drive our decision making, drive our joy, and it's been just wonderful. And obviously, hearing that you went to Goa from one life to another and built a beautiful life for yourself. Goa is very mythical here in America. We know it to be a place of raves and of just sort of this, where people go to have these experiences, if you will. And your life is now, there's lots more continuity than just a great wild evening. You're living there. Can you dispel some of the myths we have of Goa? And can you share with us a typical day in the life of you there so we can get a sense of what you've built? And really, thank you so much for being in this conversation with us.
Hello, Minakshi and Deborah. Truly a pleasure to be speaking with both of you. Thank you, Minakshi, for such a generous and free-spirited description of me. I have a broad smile plastered on my face right now, and as Deborah mentioned, I'm literally saying, whoa, she's talking about me? Would never have thought to describe myself in this manner. Guess that's the braiding of thoughts and ideas. What a lovely metaphor, Deborah. Multiple ideas and perspectives that come together to create a strong impression or impact. Truly love the analogy. Yes, Goa, a place that finds space in many a heart and mind, and I'm genuinely privileged to be living here. Arrived at this point in my life after 30 years of professional life spanning 4 distinct careers and 3 cities in India, with some work in Southern Africa and Northern Europe. So I'm right now trying a 5th career reinvention, this one completely on my own terms. No boss, no schedule, just an internal compass to rely on. It's a little scary, but without taking a plunge, we'll never know if I can turn a passion and a bunch of interests and much more. And so it's all worth it, I guess, eventually, whether I succeed or not. Interesting, Deborah, when you mentioned Goa being synonymous with rave, and other experiences, the image that came to mind was actually of Burning Man, a community and culture that advocates active participation. But back to Goa. It is India's smallest state, the size of Rhode Island actually, but has the highest per capita GDP in India. It's truly a beautiful place and a nurturing community of locals. Multiple rivers run crisscross across these 3,700 odd square kilometers, flowing through rolling, lush green hills dotted with pretty white churches and quaint villages. I live in one such village, which is primarily agrarian. But what distinguishes Goa is a rich history of 450 years of Portuguese rule, till as late as 1961. This amalgamation of Catholicism and a strong Portuguese influence within a nation which took the British 100 years to conquer and then the next 100 to rule makes for a fabulous cultural braid of a very understated but thriving community of local scholars, academics, artists, and artisans. But what seems to hog the headlines are its beautiful coastline and beaches, giving it the prime position of India's party capital. Guess that's where your reference comes from, Deborah. Yes, they do take place, but like in any other place, primarily organized and frequented by those from outside the state. The tough one to answer is, what's my typical day like? Actually, I haven't yet arrived at a typical day, but it sure is action-filled. Often with house guests, it's been fun. But still waiting, though, for a visit from Minakshi. Actually, after 30 years chained to a laptop and telephone, I suddenly feel free. Much of my time is spent in the outdoors, creating a garden from scratch, cycling when I can, going for exploratory walks, and visits to art galleries and curio shops, churches, and fabulous eating places. That's just one half. The other involves some writing from time to time, but mostly focused on kick-starting a new venture into restoring to their former glory old Goan and Portuguese homes, which have gone to ruin. I recreated my own home from a 90-year-old Goan house and loved every step of the process so much that I feel compelled to pursue this further. But like all good things, before the aesthetics and restoration can happen, it's paperwork and pragmatism. So yes, a lot of my energy has been going into poring over old documents and meeting with lawyers. A typical day is a mix of both. Throw in some cooking in between. But it's a start, just like this conversation, and both, I'm positive, are going to be exciting and a discovery at many levels.
That was pure poetry. It was so beautiful to hear the first thread or strand of this conversation from you. And I love the invitation to Minakshi that she is overdue. So now you have witness. Minakshi, you best get over there soon. It's such a beautiful arrival that you've described. It sounds very lush and intentional, but also sort of a surrender to what's going to happen, especially now that you want to restore these beautiful buildings, knowing that the process is not as much on your terms as you want everything else to be, because permits and paperwork are always part of a larger bureaucratic system. But the journey is really going to feel probably as good as the journey you did for your first house, right? Because you're not expecting it to be anything but what it is. So in doing that, you'll go to the water and you'll cook and you'll have great visits from friends. And as paperwork goes through and permissions are given and then the art begins, that's the reward. It sounds so beautiful. I didn't know Goa was as small as Rhode Island. That makes sense, actually. And that the GDP is high means that a lot of people might be coming there to take that next chapter into their own hands and bring what they've worked so hard to save and then spend it there. It makes total sense. When you think about restoring old homes to what they were, I think that makes me want to understand the balance between honoring the and having reverence for the antiquity of those kinds of homes, and I can imagine them in my mind. And what is the new flourish of modernity that you're going to put into them? Like, what's the balance? Because you can never go back. So you're always going to have to bring in, modern aesthetic, modern ideas, modern technology. But when you did your home, what was the checklist for the things you had to have because it's 2021? And how did you honor the story of the house that you made it come alive again? And how are you going to apply that to your projects with your new homes? It sounds so exciting. Thanks for kind of taking us into that process a little bit.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you for your comments. You've truly made me think, and thanks for that. Your questions and lead-ins are helping me hone my own thoughts. A new braid is definitely evolving. You asked me about the balance of antiquity and modernity and if there's a restoration style to follow. I will put this up front and center. I am not an architect. At best, a catalyst working with extremely talented local architects who share the same values in restoration and aesthetics. But before that, a quick context on how come there are so many old homes in this tiny state which are neglected. As I see it, there are two aspects of why this might have happened over time and space. Firstly, this tiny state has gone through waves of immigration. Of course, moving to Portugal was always an option. But early immigration also took place to large cities in what was called British India. That's basically all of India outside Goa, either to escape religious conversion or to pursue education or job opportunities. Simultaneously, many moved to the African countries of Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau, which are also Portuguese colonies at that time. In the last century, and it continues even today, Goans have moved to Western Europe, the US and Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So, just mere departure of entire families is one aspect. What's churned the mix even further is the unique law applicable for Goans, the Portuguese Civil Code. Part of it deals with inheritance rights. For example, the direct inheritor of a property within a married couple cannot sell the property without their spouse's consent. All spouses have 50% property rights. To top it further, half of all property must be equally divided between all their children. So you will understand, buying a traditional home in Goa is no mean feat. You need every single individual sign off, and it's the job of the buyer to ascertain who all are still alive, to recreate an authentic family tree, get those sign-offs, and so on and so on. That's what I meant by paperwork and lawyers. Extremely essential, but a task at best. So waves of immigration and a unique civil code have not helped the cause of old homes. Amongst the various kinds of homes here, my interest lies in what is called Indo-Portuguese architecture, and even within that, Catholic or Christian homes. I'm looking to focus on retaining the integrity of the style, which actually took into account the very hot and humid summers combined with a long and intense period of heavy rains called the monsoons. These homes used to be built with the local large laterite bricks, bound together with mud and finished with lime wash, often using vegetable or natural dyes for color. A traditional home is high-ceilinged, clad with clay or terracotta tiles placed on a wooden framework. The structure is punctuated with large and multiple wooden doors and windows. Flooring was usually a red or yellow IPS or Indian patent stone or intricately mosaicked cement tiles. So in a sense, the architecture truly ends up working with the natural elements beautifully. Laterite and mud, items used since ancient Rome, have inherent longevity. They keep homes cool in summer and enable walls to breathe during the 3 or 4 months of heavy downpour. While cement, which is so widely used now, has a shorter shelf life and absorbs and retains heat. Lime wash is natural mineral based, gives walls a chalky but nuanced texture and only gets better with age. The clay tiles on a high ceiling combined with cross ventilation keeps pushing the hot air up and out, while both IPS and mosaic tiles keep the floors cool. And continue from where I left off. It's this aspect of a home in conversation with its surroundings is what I truly fell in love with. Think environmentally friendly are possibly the correct words to use here. But the love grew as I saw and understood the exquisite design elements that I used. The use of bright colors on the exterior walls, giving each family home a special personality. A front porch overlooking the main street called a balcony or balcony. Perfect place to congregate and watch the world go by, while shielding the main house from the heavy rains. The application of stained glass as inflection points. Use of mother of pearl with wooden shutters to temper the brightness of the summer sun. Intricate cast iron railings. Wooden eaves boards like a lace holding together tiled roof. An extensive use of wood. Oh, I love wood, whether it's walnut or teak or cedar. All this can truly be given a very contemporary feel, especially inside the house. I believe modern and well-fitted bathrooms and kitchens are a definite must, as is air conditioning today. And there are multiple ways to ensure cooling efficiency even in a home with a high ceiling roof. What I'm fundamentally against, and I don't know whether I'll ever change my mind, is swimming pools. Everybody seems to want them, but I just think it's a sheer waste of water. Maintenance is tough, and it's not something that we lived with. I mean, we have the sea right here and the rivers. Why do we need a swimming pool at home? Deborah, you seem to have unleashed the rambling demon in me, and I could go on and on, but I will stop myself here. What I would love to hear from you is, what's your style? What kind of materials do you like? Or what are the colors that you surround yourself with?
I love the idea of instigating ramblings. Isn't that what good conversation's about, right? To not always have a direction, but have a flow. And I love hearing you. Oh my God, it's so lyrical to hear you talk about the materials you use and having a house or a home in conversation with its environs. I mean, that was just like, I get that. And it shows such reverence for where and why you do things in the space that you're doing them. And it helped me so much to hear the context of why some homes are abandoned and sort of the legacy of this whole story of bringing homes back to life has to do with a conversation, not just with the homes, but those who once lived in them and honoring those lives in a way. It's just amazing. I have two questions, and then I'm going to answer your question. The first question is, I would love for you to speak about home in terms of conversation, not with just its environs, but what it creates for the people you invite in. So imagine Minakshi comes to visit you finally and spends a week with you. And how do you physically and almost sort of, I'm looking for the word, the two of you sitting in different parts of the home and having deep connection and conversation, and how does that sink into the home itself. I'm always fascinated by how environments connect to people's connection. Obviously, a warm home and a home that has all this story contributes to people's ability to be more vulnerable, more open, more gregarious, more whatever, because it's instigating this sense of flow. So I'm wondering if you can paint me a picture of how you think homes connect to intimacy and revelation between people in terms of what happens when they're in that home, and how do you think about that when you design a home? Because it's all about the people inside the home that are going to come and visit and have experiences. The second thing is, I would love nothing more. Oh my God, it would be so rewarding if you and your own Swellcast, because you have one just like this is a Swellcast, created stories where you took a snap of something you're working on and just did a little quick audio of it saying, here I'm working on this beautiful mother of pearl and wood door, and why I'm choosing this door and how I'm letting the air go through, and here's the story of the wood I'm choosing, and just little snaps. And that could be an amazing audio journal for us to indulge in, and it would be your Swellcast and your way to just keep a journal for yourself that requires no writing, and it's such an indulgence. Anyway, that's a fantasy. I would hope for that to happen. In terms of I don't own my home at this point in my life. I lost a home in San Francisco in the bust in 2008, and I haven't quite recovered. But I'm going to take a picture of where I'm sitting right now talking with you, and I think you'll see some of my aesthetic. I really love also bringing in nature inside my home, so I do a lot of I create a lot of what they call shadow boxes, where I bring in wood and spices and paint and all these materials to tell some stories. I love mixing cultures and time periods that match from a sense of color and how they feel and how they sit in the room. I love my house, and I'll give you a tour one day on another Swell. But I love it because it has gravity. Every piece I put in here has a weight to it, and that seems to become important to me. I love, in terms of Los Angeles, I love the Spanish homes here. There's nothing like the arches and the soft walls, and they're just more welcoming, and there's less. It's not the modern look. It's a very it just yields way for someone to lean against it and not feel like they're going to get their back hurt. Like, I love softness. And I'm not an architect either, so I probably don't even have the language to describe where I'm looking right now, but I know it's a Spanish home from 1927. Anyway, I've left a couple of messages and a couple of comments here, so I'm going to stop and see what evolves. This is so wonderful. Okay, talk to you soon.